You're lying in bed at 2 in the morning and you hear it, that faint hissing sound coming from the bathroom. Your toilet's running again. You jiggle the handle, it stops for a minute, then starts right back up. Now here's what nobody tells you. That running toilet isn't just annoying. It can waste 200 gallons of water a day, and I've seen it add 40, 50, even $60 a month to a water bill. Plenty of folks call a plumber for this, and I'll tell you, more than a few of those plumbers will try to sell you a brand new fill valve, a new flush valve, sometimes even a whole new toilet. But 9 times out of 10, the real cause is a $4 part you can swap out in about 15 minutes. I'm going to show you exactly how to diagnose it, fix it, and test your work so that toilet stays quiet for good. And stick around to the end, because I've got a simple trick using food coloring that'll tell you whether your toilet is silently leaking money down the drain right now. All right, let's talk about what's actually going on inside that tank. A running toilet is one of the most common problems you'll ever deal with as a homeowner. And the beautiful thing is, it's also one of the easiest to fix. You don't need special skills. You don't need expensive tools. You just need to understand how the thing works, and then follow a few careful steps. So let's start there. Go ahead and lift the lid off your toilet tank. Set it somewhere safe, like on a folded towel on the floor, because those lids are porcelain, and they'll crack if you look at them wrong. Now look inside. You've got 3 main parts doing all the work in there. First is the fill valve. That's the tall piece on the left side with the water supply line connected to it at the bottom. Its job is to refill the tank after every flush. Second is the flush valve. That's the big piece in the center with a large opening at the bottom of the tank. When you push the handle, a chain lifts a rubber seal off that opening and lets all the water rush down into the bowl. That rubber seal is the third part, and it's called the flapper. The flapper is a soft rubber disc, usually 2 or 3 inches across, that sits right on top of the flush valve seat and creates a watertight seal. When everything's working right, you flush. The flapper lifts, water dumps into the bowl, the flapper drops back down and seals, and the fill valve refills the tank to the correct level. Simple system. Been working this way for decades. But here's the thing. That flapper is made of rubber, and rubber breaks down over time. Minerals in the water, chlorine from municipal treatment, even just plain old age will cause that rubber to warp, crack, or get coated in a slimy buildup that prevents it from sealing properly. When that happens, water slowly leaks past the flapper, down through the flush valve, and into the bowl. The fill valve senses the water level dropping, so it kicks on to refill the tank. That's the running sound you hear. It's not the fill valve failing. It's the fill valve doing exactly what it's supposed to do, because the flapper underneath isn't holding water anymore. Now let's figure out if the flapper is actually your problem, because I don't want you replacing parts you don't need to replace. Here's a simple test that takes about 10 seconds. Wait for the tank to fill up completely and the running sound to stop, or at least pause. Then take your hand and press down gently on top of the flapper. Just push it straight down onto the flush valve seat. If the running sound stops immediately, you just found your culprit. That flapper isn't sealing on its own anymore. Now take your hand off. If the sound starts back up within a few seconds, that confirms it. The flapper is worn out and it's time for a new one. While you're in there, take a look at the flapper itself. Pull it up and run your finger across the bottom, the part that sits against the valve seat. If it feels slimy, gritty, warped, or if your finger comes away with black or dark red residue, that rubber has deteriorated. I've pulled flappers out of toilets that were so far gone they practically fell apart in my hand. Most flappers last somewhere between 3 and 7 years, depending on your water quality. If you've got hard water or heavily chlorinated municipal water, you're on the shorter end of that range. Now, there's one more thing to check before we move forward. Look at the flush valve seat itself. That's the hard plastic ring the flapper sits against. Run your finger around it. If you feel any nicks, rough spots, or mineral buildup on that ring, even a brand new flapper won't seal properly against it. A little fine grit sandpaper or an old emery cloth will smooth that right out. Take your time on this one. A smooth seat is everything. All right, now that we know what we're dealing with, let's get the water shut off so we can work. Look behind the toilet, down near the floor. You'll see a small valve where the supply line connects to the wall. That's your shutoff valve. Turn it clockwise until it stops. If you've got an oval handle, same thing, clockwise. If you've got a quarter-turn ball valve with a lever handle, turn it so the lever is perpendicular to the pipe. Now flush the toilet and hold the handle down to drain as much water out of the tank as you can. You won't get every last drop, and that's fine. If you want to soak up what's left, an old towel or a big sponge works great. I keep a dedicated sponge under my bathroom sink, just for this. Between you and me, at my age, getting up and down off that bathroom floor isn't what it used to be, so I like to have everything I need within arm's reach before I get down there. If your knees give you trouble, grab a folded towel or a kneeling pad. No shame in making yourself comfortable. You're going to be down there for a few minutes. By the way, if you're finding this advice helpful, do me a small favor and hit that subscribe button down below. I put out new videos like this one every week, walking you through repairs that'll save you a small fortune in plumber bills. Subscribing is free, and it's the best way to make sure you don't miss the next one. All right, let's continue. Now let's get that old flapper out of there. Most flappers attach to the flush valve with two small rubber ears, one on each side, that hook over two pegs on the flush valve body. All you have to do is unhook those ears, and the flapper lifts right off. Some older models, especially the ones from the late 80s and 90s, have a ring that slides down over the entire overflow tube instead of ears. If that's what you've got, you'll need to slide it up and off the tube. Either way, there's also a chain connecting the flapper to the flush handle lever. Unhook that chain from the lever arm. It's usually just a small clip or hook. Set the old flapper aside. Now here's something I want you to do before you throw it away. Take that old flapper with you to the hardware store. I've seen this 1,000 times. Somebody walks into the plumbing aisle, grabs a universal flapper off the shelf, gets home, and it doesn't fit right because their toilet uses a 3-inch flapper instead of the standard 2-inch. Older toilets, most of the ones made before about 2003, typically use a 2-inch flapper. A lot of newer low-flow toilets use a 3-inch flapper. The easiest way to know is to bring the old one and match it up. Takes the guesswork out of it completely. When you're at the store, you'll see a few brands. Corky and Fluidmaster are the two I trust. Both make quality flappers that run somewhere between $3 and $5. If you want the one that lasts the longest, look for a flapper that says it's made from chlorine-resistant rubber or red silicone. The red silicone ones hold up especially well in areas with heavily treated water. They cost maybe $1 more, and they're worth every penny. Now, to install the new flapper, just reverse what you did. If your flush valve has those two side pegs, hook the rubber ears over them. Make sure the flapper sits centered and flat on the valve seat. Press it down with your finger and check that it makes even contact all the way around. Then, reconnect the chain to the flush handle lever. Here's where a lot of people make a mistake that causes the exact problem they're trying to fix. The chain length matters. You want about a 1/2 inch of slack in that chain when the flapper is closed. Too much slack, and the flapper won't lift high enough when you flush, which means you get a weak flush. Too little slack, and the chain holds the flapper slightly off the seat, which means it never fully seals, and you're right back to a running toilet. I've walked into bathrooms where someone just replaced the flapper and it's still running, and every single time, the chain is the reason. Adjust it so there's just a little play. Most chains have a clip you can move to different lengths to get the length right. If there's a lot of excess chain hanging down, clip it short or hook it out of the way so it doesn't get caught under the flapper. That's another sneaky cause of a toilet that won't stop running. All right, with the new flapper seated and the chain set, Let's turn the water back on and see how we did. Go back to that shutoff valve behind the toilet and turn it counterclockwise to open it. You'll hear the fill valve kick on, and the tank will start filling up. Watch the flapper as the water rises. It should stay firmly seated against the flush valve opening with no bubbles, no movement, no water sneaking past it. Let the tank fill all the way up until the fill valve shuts off on its own. Now listen, silence is what you're after. If the fill valve turns off and stays off, you just fixed your running toilet. Give it a flush and watch the whole cycle. The flapper should lift cleanly, the water should rush into the bowl, and the flapper should drop back down and seal tight. The fill valve should kick on. Refill the tank to the water line marked on the inside of the tank and shut off. No hissing, no trickling, just quiet. Now let's fine-tune the water level while we're in here, because this is a detail most people skip and it can cause problems down the road. Look inside your tank for a line molded into the porcelain or a mark on the overflow tube. That's your target water level, and it's usually about 1 inch below the top of the overflow tube. If the water fills too high, it'll spill over the top of the overflow tube and run continuously into the bowl. That's another cause of a running toilet that has nothing to do with the flapper. If your fill valve has an adjustment screw on top, which most modern ones do, you can turn that screw to raise or lower the water level. Clockwise usually lowers it, counterclockwise raises it, but check your specific valve because some work the opposite way. If you've got an older ball float style fill valve, the one with a rubber ball on the end of a metal arm, you can bend that arm down slightly to lower the water level. You want the water to stop filling right at that line, no higher. This is one of those little adjustments that makes a big difference over time. Let's talk about some common problems you might run into and how to handle them. First one I see all the time is the new flapper still letting water seep past. If you followed the steps and the toilet is still running, pull that flapper up again and check the valve seat one more time. Even a tiny ridge of mineral buildup will break the seal. Take a Scotch-Brite pad or fine grit sandpaper and gently smooth the entire seating surface. Wipe it clean with a rag, set the flapper back down, and test again. Second issue is the toilet running intermittently, maybe cycling on for a few seconds every 10 or 15 minutes. Folks call this phantom flushing. That's still a flapper problem, just a slow leak instead of a fast one. The tank loses water so gradually that the fill valve only notices every few minutes. A new flapper fixes this, but if you just put a new one in and it's still happening, double-check your chain length. Even one link too short will hold that flapper a hair off the seat. Third thing I run into is the fill valve never shutting off. Water pouring over the overflow tube and down into the bowl non-stop. That's a water level issue. Adjust the fill valve down so the water stops about 1 inch below the overflow tube. If the adjustment doesn't work and the valve just keeps running, now you've actually got a fill valve problem, not a flapper problem, and that's a different repair. Fourth one is a flapper that closes too fast, barely letting any water into the bowl before it drops shut. That means too much slack in the chain, or the flapper is waterlogged and too heavy. A waterlogged flapper is one that's absorbed water into the rubber over the years and gotten heavy. A new flapper solves this instantly. Fifth issue, and this one's subtle. You install a new flapper, and it seems fine, but after a week or two, the running starts again. That usually means you bought a flapper that's not quite the right fit for your flush valve. Different manufacturers have slightly different dimensions. This is why I told you to bring the old one to the store. If you're stuck, the manufacturer of your toilet usually lists the correct replacement flapper on their website, or right inside the tank lid. The good news is, if you follow the steps we covered today, you'll handle all of these before they become real headaches. Now for that bonus tip I promised you at the beginning. This one's a diagnostic trick, and once you know it, you'll use it for the rest of your life. Go to your kitchen, grab a bottle of food coloring, any color will do, and put about 5 or 6 drops into your toilet tank. Don't flush, just let it sit for 20 to 30 minutes, and then come back and look at the water in the bowl. If you see colored water in the bowl, your flapper is leaking. If the bowl water is still clear, your seal is good. This is the easiest way to test every toilet in your house, especially the ones in guest bathrooms that nobody uses every day. Those are the ones that silently waste the most water because nobody notices the sound. I do this test on every toilet in my house once a year, right around the time I change my furnace filters. Takes 5 minutes, and it's caught slow leaks that would have cost me real money on my water bill. My Uncle Ray used to say, do it once, do it right, and testing your own work is part of doing it right. That's how my Uncle Ray taught me, and that's how I'm teaching you. Before you go, if you got something out of this video, do me one last favor and hit that subscribe button. I put out new videos every week covering real-world plumbing repairs, money-saving tips, and the kind of know-how that takes years to pick up on the job. Subscribing costs you nothing, and it makes sure these videos show up in your feed when you need them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.